three people sitting in this room today. And I'm Jean Perkins, this is Meda Stork, and behind the camera is Tom Holbeck. And we had an idea, and we wanted to do some sharing with people that would come after us. And we'd like to tell you a little bit about how this project got started. In 1979, our family moved to Rockford, and I began going to the United Presbyterian Church here. And through the church, I met this lady, Meda Stork, and we've become friends. And since that time, through our friendship, she's invited my family, my children, my husband, and myself to tour her home. And I was so impressed with Meda and her home, which it also is a Wright County historical site, that I was hoping that this material and Meda could be someday on videotape for other people to see and to share as well. So that's why we're here today, to talk with Meda and have her talk about her house. So I'm going to sit back a little bit and encourage Meda to share with you on tape as she shared with me and with my family.
I have enjoyed living here in this house, and I welcome you into my parlor. It is a very cozy, warm room. In 1937, my husband, Clinton Stork, and our daughters were vacationing at Lake Rebecca. While we were there, we met Miss Jessie Florida, who owned this house at that time. She invited us to come and do it and see it. She told us the most interesting stories about her family and the early days in Rockford. Her family had traveled from Vermont by covered wagon down into to Garden Prairie, Illinois. They were interested in putting up lumber. And so they decided that they would come up the Mississippi River by steamboat to St. Paul and see what might be their plans. Mr. Ames and Mr. Florida had married sisters. They met Mr. George on the boat, and he was interested in lumber too. So the three men, with their packs on their backs, came out to this place.
And this was about in what year, Meda?
1955. There were no roads. They took the three men took claims, and Mr. George stayed here and was the first settler in Rockford. Mr. Ames and Mr. Florida went back to get their families. But before leaving, they applied to the territorial government for help in building the road. And in the spring of 1856, they overtook the road builders and helped to build the road. There were 20 men in the party, and some of them had wives, and there were a few children. The Winnebago Indians lived along the Crow River, and they were very happy here because there was good hunting and good fishing. There was lots of fruit during the summer, and nuts, hazelnuts, and black walnuts, and butternuts. Miss Florida told about the building of the house. They all worked together on the building of the house. She told us also that the Rockford was named after the rocks in the river, and they could ford the river at this place.
Oh, let's see. Let me get you to focus again here now, Meda. And you're up.
The house is constructed of white oak plank that stand perpendicular, and on the outside to take white ash, and on the inside to take lath and plaster. It's a pretty sturdy old house. It stood here since 1856. I made that mistake again. Sorry. Keep going. I want you to notice the fireplace. I called your attention to the trees, the butternut tree outside, because the woodwork in a greater part of the house is a butternut. Beautiful, wood box right next to the fireplace. So we have it as he built it. The fireplace does a good job heating this room. And I've got to stop again, these. And they are called the Seven Philosophers. The Bristol vases on the mantel date back to 1861. They were a wedding gift in my husband's family. Now I want to draw your attention to the Stork panels. They're silver, and they're very unusual and beautiful antiques. We prize them very much because they are heirlooms. I want you to see the organ which came down in the family. It's a reed organ, and many children haven't seen organs like that. So, pairing pieces of the little lady and gentleman are especially chosen ornaments for that place by Mr. George, and a collection of real interesting pieces. I like to tell about my Stork glass because that's one of my wonderful interests. In fact, it was our hunt of for Stork pattern glass that we came to this house. And we, instead of buying she didn't have any glass, and so we bought the house. My daughter, Grace, was going to be a doctor. She changed her mind. When she was taking finals over at the university one day, I went shopping to find something for her that would kind of cheer her up a bit because she was bothered by that final. And I found Dr. Stork, and I called her Dr. Stork for a long time. And by the time she got used to it, and by the time I got used to it, she got married and has 5 children. So I took the Stork back, and I'm keeping him until everybody's grown up. Then Grace can have it back. Her children are pretty well grown, but she has grandchildren now. This is a beautiful little Staffordshire piece, one of my choice pieces. The lamps, several of them, have Stork designs on them. This is interesting because I had a friend who had been to my house, and I went to an antique shop and found this shade and decided that they would go together. Most of the furniture we have upholstered ourselves. I covered the Green Lounge not too many years ago. I also papered this room after my husband took sick. He was quite interested in my being sure to get it straight. He sat here in his wheelchair because he was an invalid. Of special interest to the Alpha Rose carved. It's a diamond willow, and the depot in St. Paul, it was made in 1911, and it pictures the depot and the track, the engine of the Great Northern and Express, United States Mail, and the sleeper down here at the end. As you turn it back, he carved the animals that he saw from the window of the train. I made the rug the first year after we bought the house. And a friend helped me get started on it. She was from Denmark, and she had made rugs in order to provide for her family. And when I met her, I met her at my sister's, and I told her that I would like to learn how to make rugs. So she came out here and spent 2 weeks with us in this room, all butternut doors made with wooden pegs and the old iron nails. They're made here on the place by Mr. Joel, Mr. Ford, and Mr. Ames. The piano is a Kanabi, that was given to us. It is made of rosewood. I understand
Stop.
Rosewood.
Good.
The piano is a rosewood, Kanavi, and it was given to us by a friend named Stillwater. The interesting story I was told about the rosewood trees that grow in South America is that the reason they called them the rosewood trees was because they smelled like roses when they were cut into. Next, I'm going to tell you about the portraits, paintings on the wall. They are of my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, the Dysons, who lived in Liverpool, England. They came here to our home when I was a teenage girl. I want to draw your attention to the lamp. It's called a parlor lamp, and a friend of mine gave that to me too. The mirror was also a gift from another friend. Our most choice heirloom is the sampler. It was made by Elizabeth Harwood in 1848. Here is a picture of her home and a picture of the store across the road. This is a family tree, beautifully designed on the finest linen. Here we have a list of the family members, their birth dates, and the deaths that occurred before Elizabeth made her sampler. It's called a sampler. Little girls were taught to do handwork in those days. They were required to work just so many hours, so much time a day, so that they would learn how to make quilts and make their clothes, and they were taught how to help with the housework. Mothers generally had to do quite a bit of their work. A lot took place in this room because this was the kitchen where they had the kitchen range. Over here we have a kitchen Franklin heater. It works like a fireplace. It's surprising how this little stove will heat up this room. We enjoy it on a cool evening. That chair is also a family heirloom, as these other two chairs are. Mr. Sharp's father and mother used those chairs when they were pioneers in Minnesota. I want you to notice the print done by Curry before Curry and Eyes joined each other. It's entitled Married. Miss Florida told us when we bought it from her that there was a companion picture. And so for a number of years we looked for the bachelor. But we didn't find him until 1965. And then in 1965 we were visiting a niece who took us to a very elite antique shop in Carson City. And we saw this picture of single, which really meant that he was a bachelor. We've been asking for the bachelor. The manager of the shop was very interested in the fact that we had the one of married. And he wanted to buy that from us and offered as much for that one as what he was asking for this one. I hesitated about buying it because we had been on vacation, and I didn't think that we should spend any more money. And we didn't need it. But my niece, who was with me, said, "Oh, Aunt Meda, don't be silly. If I were you, I would live on bread and milk. Some way or other, I would find a way of having that picture." And so we came home with it. My husband settled it for us. Now I'm going to take you into the old pantry. Stop. I want to show you the clock. The pioneers sent, the Ames sent for a clock. And when it came, it was too high for the space where they wanted to place it. So they made a hole in the ceiling, and then they framed it, and the clock stood there when we bought the house. It did look cute. It did look strange, but Jessie in Florida wanted that clock, so she took it, and we were able to get this one to take its place. Doesn't reach up quite as high as it should. All right, now what should I do? We have come into the dining room, and this is should be told. This don't show me yet part of the house, because the new part to the folks, because it was an addition to the first part of the house that was built. Now I want to tell you about the blue china that we bought from Jessie, Florida. Jessie, Florida was a daughter of Joel, Florida, and she was the one that fell heir to this place and lived here for many years. She loved parties, and we loved parties. My husband and I entertained a great deal, and even now, when we have our Thanksgiving dinners or any special occasion, we use these beautiful blue dishes. It's called the cauldronware. It's an English china, and I just love it with the white tablecloth and the old glass. Another feature I want you to see in this room is a cabinet with a lovely old china. There are some very special places on this cabinet. One is this Norwood piece, a marked piece. It's called custard glass. This came down in the family, as that one did too, of a sawtooth pattern in the milk-colored glass. Here's another beautiful milk-colored glass in the daisy and button pattern. The hen has a very interesting story, because a friend of mine whose daughter didn't care for antiques, let her mother just discard it. She didn't want it, and her mother gave that to my husband and me for our 50th wedding anniversary. It came from a plantation down in Mississippi, and a beautiful, beautiful place. So I like to sometimes connect the things that I have in the house with the places they came from. The tureen has been used many times here when we served soup or stew. Friends like to be served the old-fashioned way. They set the table up and put the turn on the table, and everybody helps themselves. Very beautiful pieces of colored glass. This is the cranberry. That's a pickle jar. Has a stork design on it. Here's another little finger bowl that has a stork design. This is a piece of pomona, very rare and most difficult to find nowadays. I said to a friend, it has a little chip in it. And she said, what of that? You have a piece. The castor set belonged to the Floridas, and this was for the salt, the pepper, and the mustard, and the sauces they used on meat. Notice the marble top chest. We also got that from Jessie, Florida. The shelf, you will notice the Seth Thomas clock. It works with weights, and it keeps very good time. Once a week, I wind it up with a key and pull the weights up. And then at the end of the week, or the first of the next week, it has to be wound again. Here is my choice collection of glass, the Stork design. A very famous designer in Massachusetts. His name was Joshua Locke, designed the Stork pattern. It's over 100 years old, and I have quite a few pieces of it. You'll notice over there on that chest, there are more pieces of it. I want to also show you this water pitcher. I believe it's called a water tankard. I use it on the table for coffee. It is porcelain lined. Keeps the coffee hot. My sister was an artist, and she did beautiful paintings with watercolor. Some people did. We did appreciate this old kitchen range from wrought iron, trimmed with a nickel, and it heats this room beautifully. Use wood in it. Can't you just smell the bread baking and the baked beans in the oven, the Boston brown bread? The old iron kettle was given to us by a friend. It was brought from Canada, and it's so fitting here on the stove. The sand irons made many women very sad because they were heavy, and in the summertime when they heated the kitchen up hot, ironing was a really difficult job. I remember ironing these irons when I was a girl at home. You'd heat them up, and generally had three. While one was being used, the other two were being heated. In the oven, we could bake 8 loaves of bread at one time. Here at the end of this top surface is the reservoir. Water for the work around the kitchen for cleaning and for baths sometimes. Years ago, they used to put a galvanized tub here in front of the stove where they took their baths. Notice here the warming oven. That's where the food was put until it was ready to be served. On the chimney are the brass pans and fry pan that were used by the pioneers. Above is a kettle that was used by man who gave it to his daughter, gave it to me. That's the way so many of my things have come. Now I'd like to have you look at the table that I have set for the Stork had in China. I have quite a bit of this now. Started picking it up by piece, but I've been happy to be able to acquire quite a bit of it. This fork and knife was used by my husband's parents when they first kept house, 1861. They were in the back of their kitchenware. The hen of milk glass was used to keep the soft-boiled eggs warm. The lamp gives rather a dim glow these days, so we don't use it on our kitchen table anymore. But that's what the pioneers used. I want you to notice the cabinet to the left of me. There are many choice pieces of antiques in there, and I'm going to tell you just about one, maybe two. This is porcelain. It has the enamel storks on it. Very lovely, rare piece. It was used for rose petals. This is also another very rare piece. It's called the honey bear. In a beautiful blue. Now I'd like to have you see the dry sink that's over at this end of the room. This was used by the pioneers. There was no outlet at one end, so they had to soak their water up with a cloth into a pail and then carry it outdoors and empty it. At this end of the dry sink was a cistern pump. The cistern is outside, just beyond that, beyond that window. We had this modern steel sink placed in here and running water in the house at the time that we restored the house, just for the convenience. And you'll notice the contrast here. We had the electric refrigerator, electric stove, and the running water. Now I'd like to invite you into, first of all, I want to draw your attention to this candle mold that we bought from Jesse, Florida. That was used by my daughters when we first came here in 1938. They made candles, 36 at one time. My husband and I enjoyed visiting museums, and we've never seen one that could make 36 candles. The heart-shaped pan there was made by Mr. Stork's father, had it made rather, for the birthday cakes. Here we have the clock that came down in the Stork family. It keeps good time. And you tell me when you're ready. This was the Florida's room that they used for their buggy and their harness. It was not a finished room not too long ago that we finished it up. And I found it to be a very lovely room. Spent a great deal of time in what we call a putter shop. On the wall is a map of Wright County that was published in 1879. You'll notice down at the far corner here, I can't move, is Rockford, and here is a list of the industry that was in Rockford at that time. We do not begin to have the industry now as they had it then. There was a great influx of settlers into the Minnesota Territory, and many of them came into Wright County. Most of them were farmers. Some of them brought their cows and their horses and pigs and chickens and seeds for their gardens. The first 2 years that they were here, they had a lot of trouble with grasshoppers. The grasshoppers came and ate everything green, and the people were poor. They had little to go on. A man, a stranger, came in one day, and he found ginseng in the woods. And he gave cash to the settlers, which was of great help to them. The ginseng is a plant that had roots are shaped like a hand. The ginseng is used for medicinal purposes by the Chinese people. The strange man encouraged the settlers to dig it, and many families went out and dug ginseng from morning till night. Boys and girls worked with their fathers and mothers. To the left of the map are the pictures of the mills. First, one was Mr. Ames, Mr. Florida, and Mr. George's lumber mill. They sold a great deal of lumber to the settlers who took claims. The people were able to get claims for very little money, and they had to promise to improve upon them. The flour mill is next to the lumber mill, and that was flour was called the kitchen queen. According to Jessie Florida, the flour was superior to any flour that they could buy in Minneapolis. She always had a little smile on her face when she told us that. The picture above the desk is that of the woolen mill. They manufactured woolen blankets, woolen socks, and woolen mackinaws. It was a very busy place, and they provided employment for a good many people. That was not built as early as the other two mills. I think it was 1872 that mill was built. Miss Florida told me about how people appreciated the employment that they had there. Mr. Florida and Mr. Ames also had a part in that. A blanket that came from that old woolen mill. Beautiful red, soft and warm. When we first bought the house, lady and her daughter came here to call on us. And she told us stories about the old woolen mill. When she was a little girl, she loved to come with her father and mother to the mill, where they exchanged eggs and butter for woolen flannel. And her mother made all their clothes. Another story that I think is kind of interesting is that of an elderly man and his wife who came here. Mr. Jefferson Benner, who was raised in Rockford, and when he was a little boy, he used to come here to take piano lessons from Carrie, Florida, Jessie's sister. One day he came, all dressed up, in his Lord Fauntleroy suit. He came to play in his first recital. He was here a little early, so he decided to take a path down to the mill. And when he got down there, he saw a bat, a soft, white, fluffy wool, and he thought it would be fun to jump into it, which he did. They had just prepared the wool for carding, and had put an oil all through it, and he was in trouble. So he went on home, which was just for a little way up the road, and he had a spanking, a bath, and a change of clothes. This bed was given to us by that man at Burnett in Alaska. As the original wallpaper, which has stuck pretty well for over 100 years. This four-poster bed was given to us with the gold brocade canopy, was given to us by a friend. And I have the white pillow shams on the pillows and the old-fashioned spread. This bed warmer is also a family heirloom. Many of the bedrooms did not have heat and didn't have central heat in those days, so they used little stoves. And heated charcoal was put in the pan, and then it was slid in between the bedding to warm the beds before they went to bed. A marble top, walnut. In the other corner is the wardrobe. There was no closet in this room, so they put their clothes in the wardrobe. The little bed there is called invalid's bed. If you're not an invalid when you lie down on it, you will be when you get up. Bedrooms that were used by the hired help. We used the back stairway.
You're on, Meda.
This is our library, the original wallpaper. On this table, the game table, I have quite a few things that have always interested children. The blocks that Mr. Stork used to play with when he was a little boy, and the marbles. Children spent a great deal of time with stereopticon views and received a fine education through pictures that they were able to buy and get an idea of what different historical places were like. This picture happens to be one of Minnesota. This is a chess set that is handmade, that dates back into the 1860s. That was been used by the family. Our grandchildren, we have 8 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren who love to come here and play. And they love to read and they love to play games at this game table. Here I have a McGuffey reader. That was one of considered the very finest reading material for the school children in the early years. Also have a slate. I remember when I was a little girl of using slates. We didn't have the paper then that you children have today. This is an inkwell that was carried by a Civil War soldier during the war. I have a nice collection of Indian relics. Here is a hammer that was used by the Indians, or it might have been called a maul. Mr. Stork picked that up out here on our place. And here are some Indian arrowheads and scrapers. I think that's an arrowhead. And the scrapers. The Indian basket. I want to tell you about this box. This box was given to me. And I have my Indian relics in there. This skirt was made of flax. My husband's great-grandmother grew the flax, made the thread and the skirt. It's carded on the large spinning wheel. The dog chair here that has a hand carved dog's heads is called a Sleepy Hollow chair. This is a horsehair covered chair. The horsehair was made of the hairs of a horse's tail. People didn't like them very well because they were kind of scratchy, I understand. The Bible has a very interesting story, too, because we had an open house here, and a letter came to us from a lady in Cokato sending her regrets that she couldn't come. but she invited us to come out and see her. So we went there one day. She was an invalid, and she told us about playing in this house when she was a little girl. And because she had played here and had such fond memories of it, she wanted us to have her Bible. Her name is engraved on it, Alice Angel. And she asked me if I knew that the first child born in Rockford was an angel. Desk is of butternut, and it was one of the pieces of furniture that we bought, especially for that place. In it we have a collection of very lovely things that we cherished.